student who has the highest ranking GPA in their graduating class is valedictorian. This year's recipient has attended WCA since kindergarten. He is co-president of WCA's chapter of the National Honor Society, president of his class, and represented the school for the 2022's Brightest and Best. He was a member of the wrestling, soccer, volleyball, and golf teams. In the fall, Peter will be attending the University of Michigan. His favorite verse is 2 Corinthians 4:8-9. We are hard-pressed on every side, but not crushed, perplexed, but not in despair, persecuted, but not abandoned, struck down, but not destroyed. It is my privilege to introduce the valedictorian of Washtenaw Christian Academy's class of 2022, Mr. Peter Jeffrey.
Thank you, Miss Hazy. As she said, my name is Peter Jeffrey, and that is indeed spelled Jefffery, unlike this sign here that was hung on my locker for my entire senior year. 3 million Israelites, men, women, and children, sitting in a dust-covered camp, sweat dripping down their backs. Moses was dead, their fearless leader who redirected and took care of them for decades, gone. Nomads for 40 years and enemies in the eyes of the world. What were they going to do now? All eyes focused on one man, Joshua. In the heat, sweat, and tears, Joshua heard the voice of the Lord saying, "Moses, my servant, is dead. Now therefore arise, go over this Jordan, you and all this people, into the land that I am giving them, to the people of Israel." So there Joshua was at a turning point, faced with new responsibilities and the world ahead of him. He had much to learn and many decisions to make. Congrats, everyone. We finished high school. Now, everything changes. We are faced with new responsibilities and the world ahead of us. We have much to learn and many decisions to make. Without a dress code, I hope. We're not that different from Joshua. Throughout our schooling, many of us have been in a familiar, comfortable situation, living with our families, going to the church we grew up in, attending this school, a very nurturing and protecting environment. Now, we're moving out, going to college, trade school, or the workforce. This is a major transition, a major turning point. Before we look into the future, though, I'd like to take some time to reflect on the past, the way it shaped us, taught us, and prepared us, much like the lessons Joshua learned through Moses. 13 years ago, I walked into this school for my first day of kindergarten in room 134, not knowing what to think or expect. Now, 4,656 days later, I look back on a whole lot of laughter, tears, learning, sports injuries, friendships, and, of course, a whole lot of tea. Now, for those of you born in the 1900s, tea means drama. I am now standing before you to say thank you with a grateful and joyful heart for these last 13 years that I will never forget. Thank you to the board members, past and present, for your continuous prayers and leadership through the ups and downs of WCA. Thank you, Mrs. Ceccarelli, for being an incredibly approachable leader who will jump to help any one of us students. Although I will say my favorite memory of you is probably seeing you sumo wrestling in a giant blow-up suit, all in the name of feeding the homeless. But between you and me, I think she actually just wanted to try out sumo wrestling. Thank you to the administrative staff who work behind the scenes to keep WCA thriving, especially Miss Hazy, who's gone beyond the call of duty to walk alongside all of us to help us prepare for our lives after high school. Thank you to all the teachers who have walked us through this world, equipping us not only with knowledge, but also with the Word of God to apply to every situation we face. Thank you for making lesson plans, for Mr. Hibbett teaching us how to launch a potato from a PVC pipe and some hairspray. That'll come in handy in college next year. Thank you for making yourselves available for anything we might need, and Mrs. Recker for being the most loyal member of our Class Royale clan. Thank you to the student body. You guys have become more than friends. We're all family in this school, and I am honored to call each of you a brother or sister. Finally, I have to thank my parents, my family, my parents who have mentored me as role models in life, and my siblings, Lena, Maya, Max, and Vlad, who have listened to a lot of complaining over the years. Now, I could go on for hours reflecting on the memories and lessons I've learned at this school, but I'll spare you. The last 13 years have led us here. All of a sudden, we're going to step out of our familiar role as high school students. New independence and daunting responsibilities have been thrust upon us, and we have a choice. Just like Joshua, we have a choice. Are we going to step into the world as high school graduates with timidity, fear, complacency, or are we going to approach it with boldness, ambition, humility, and perseverance? Not long after God charged Joshua with the seemingly impossible task of leading the Israelites, God encouraged him with these words: "This book of the law shall not depart from your mouth, but you shall meditate on it day and night, so that you may be careful to do according to all that is written in it. For then you will make your way prosperous, and then you will have good success." And for the third time in this passage, God exhorts Joshua: "Be strong and courageous. Do not be terrified. Do not be discouraged. For the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go." Joshua wasn't just an ordinary man. Joshua was different from the world around him. As an Israelite, he was trained differently. Now, some looked down on the seemingly unconventional cultures of God's people, but when we look at Joshua's leadership later in his life, we see that his God-fearing background and upbringing equipped him to boldly lead in a world of distraction. Millions of high schoolers are graduating this year, and each of them can say they have a high school experience, but not many can say they share the same experience as us. Our experience, just like the Israelites, is truly unique. For example, Jeffrey and I have been together 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, for 12 years. I'm pretty sure Jeffrey has more dirt on me than anyone else in this building, so thank you, Jeffrey, for still being nice to me. Just like Joshua, the things that make WCA culture different are the exact things that will make us successful leaders and citizens after graduation. The WCA community is truly unique. It extends beyond us as students to include the staff and even our families. We are a community of believers who can edify each other and uplift one another. Proverbs 17:17 says, a friend loves at all times, but a brother is born for a time of adversity." As some of you might know, last February I hit my head and ended up in the hospital with anterograde amnesia. At least, that's what people tell me. In the weeks following, I felt more loved by the WCA community than ever. Mr. Tessman, worried about my spotty memory, had every student in my speech class record a shared experience they had with me, just to make sure I could still piece together the essentials. In hard times, like my concussion, the WCA community runs to help, to pray, and to support each other. That makes each of you, all of us, special. Another huge distinction of WCA is the vast number of enrichment opportunities offered to every student. In my 4 years of high school, I was part of the soccer, wrestling, volleyball, golf, and basketball teams. I also participated in drama, choir, robotics, and praise band. Now, this might make me seem like I'm some sort of prodigy, but I can assure you I'm not. In fact, the majority of students, no matter how athletic, academic, or musical, are able to take part in just as many activities. WCA offers and encourages students to take a well-rounded approach to high school. How many graduates can say they played 5 sports, took part in drama productions, sang in the choir, the list goes on, in their high school career alone? That makes us, this place, special. The amazing thing about WCA is that while it challenges students to undertake rigorous and busy schedules, anything that a student at WCA does will revolve around the Lord, so that we may glorify Him in everything that we do. On every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, we start the day with a salute to the Bible, Christian flag, and American flag, followed by a devotion, worship, and prayer, reminding us that Christ should be the motivation that guides our decisions. That is the biggest distinction that makes WCA special. Jesus is invited into class with us every day. As we enter history, we view the Pilgrims as missionaries and advocates for the Christian faith, rather than mere settlers. Mr. Lund has truly mastered his way of getting us to look at everything with a biblical perspective. Next, we open our science books in Mrs. Bobbitt's class and marvel at God's power that uses the same gravitational force to move tiny atoms and immense planets, or the way that the anatomy of a human body directly correlates with the Bible. Choir reminds us of the angels that exist solely to worship God in song. When we struggle to remember the precise formulas of calculus, because we did, sorry Miss Laura, we are amazed at how exact and systematic God designed this world. Our WCA education, in addition to our chapels and Bible classes, impresses on us that history is the record of God's hand at work. Science is discovering the fingerprint of God. Math is understanding the mind of God. Language arts empowers us to boldly proclaim God's glory. At WCA, we have truly received an education, an experience that is special. Entering into the next phase of life, most graduates have been prepared by their high schools to learn and take in new information, but we have also been prepared to be in the minority. What we believe is not easily accepted in modern society. We will be confronted by a society that rejects our Christian principles, a society that teaches moral relativism. We hear the phrase, "No judgment, man, you do you." However, in Mr. Bowman's words, "No, don't do you, do God." We've been different all these years. We've been trained to be different. Just like Joshua, though, we will not be able to make such a big difference on our own. But we're not alone. We have God on our side. We've been raised up at home, church, and at WCA to know God's word and to meditate on it. Now, God promises to be with us every step of the way as we navigate this world. We are sending people into so many different places. We have doctors, engineers, electricians, chefs, missionaries, accountants, interior designers, architects, politicians, EMTs, teachers, child care workers, beauticians, nurses, graphic designers, and diplomats. Wow. So, WCA Class of 2022, my friends, my family, we were in a school that's different, a school that trained us to be servant leaders for Christ without abandoning principles of academics or athletics. In Joshua's final challenge to his fellow Israelites, he urged them to make a commitment to serve the Lord, and in true leadership fashion, he boldly proclaimed, "As for me and my house, we will serve the Lord." Today, my fellow graduates, I challenge you to join me in living a life of resilience, humility, and full reliance on God. Thank you.